Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Voice Podcast. I'm Enrique Vince, my co-host, and we're back in Florida sharing some sunshine from Tampa. And Vince will introduce.
Oh, yeah. Happy December, everyone. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. We're just so excited, again, to be here in the Sunshine State in Tampa, Florida. We have Garth Arevalo. He is the CEO of Lucos from Tampa again. So we're just grateful to have him. So Garth, please just tell us a little bit about you first.
Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Thanks for the invite. So a little bit about me. I was in the Air Force active duty for 12 years and then followed on with 8 in the reserves. But after getting out of active duty, I started a business. Linked up with a guy I served with on active duty. And for the last almost 14 years now, we've been running Lucos. So while I was on active duty, I was a contracting officer, which meant I was working in acquisition, buying things. A lot of the years that I was on active duty, did a lot of support to the special operations community. So I learned a lot about how they work. I wasn't an operator myself, but a lot of the support, logistics, acquisition, things like that, I was pretty familiar with. So I saw a lot of opportunities in the defense contracting world, and had always wanted to be my own boss. So learned a lot from the military, but transitioned on to that and entrepreneurship. It's been a lot of fun since.
Well, we definitely have shared some of your history. We've seen your business here in Central Florida, a lot of the veteran events you've been at speaking. So we're so proud of what you've done post-service and with this company. So tell us a little bit more about Lucos.
Sure. Lucos is a diversified training and professional services firm. We have a lot of work, like I said, from the special operations community with experience in that. We do training. We run a major exercise for the Marine Special Operations. We do a lot of analysis of different training for different special operations and a lot of the joint commands. So we have them for the regions. So we have folks in Europe, focus on Asia, South America, things like that. So we have a lot of joint work, and in general, all over the military. We have contracts with all the different military, well, 4 of the military services, and continuing to grow that.
Absolutely, continue to grow. Indeed, that's what it's all about. Making that quam, right? Making that cheddar. But great narrative story. I love hearing about it. So when you hit 2020 and the pandemic hit the whole world, how did Lucos survive, or what did you guys do in that current time?
Sure, yeah. Just like most any other business, we were, didn't know what to expect. Some of our contracts, I mentioned, we do an exercise for the Marine Special Operations, and a lot of those live in-person things stopped for a little bit. But luckily for us, a lot of the work was deemed mission critical. So we had to change a lot of the things we did. We recruited folks from all over the country to help support in the training events, and we had to change those up. So we had to consider our regional, where people were coming from, and there was a lot of movement, but the training that we were running continued, and the government didn't stop. So the vast majority of our work continued on. Even the exercises, they said, hey, we're still deploying Marines, so we still need the support. We had to make some big adjustments and so forth. But the business, while it had some hiccups at the beginning, we were able to sort through those in collaboration with the Marines and other customers. There was a lot of changing work schedules. A lot of our folks worked in classified spaces, and those caused challenges because people couldn't get on their classified networks at home, obviously, so they had to come in at different shifts. And our program management team and partners and things like that all really came together, and we had a lot of success working with the different changes. But the business then continued to grow. We had been positioning for years a lot of the things we were doing, so we luckily were able to continue to grow even with all the things going on. And in some places, the government seemed to work a little bit more efficiently. Some folks were working from home, and so a lot of things worked well. We were lucky enough in our industry where we did not see much of a drop off. There were some areas that did, but not really for Lucos. We were luckily well positioned and were able to continue to grow in 2020 and 2021 were really good years for us when it all, after some of the beginnings of the uncertainties, and we were able to deal with those. We've worked through them all, and we're thrilled to be where we are today.
And that's amazing and a testament of the true relationship of having a DoD background, military flex type of background, and being able to assimilate and adjust with the environment. So kudos to you guys for taking on, that venture and just being able to adjust accordingly. Now, you have your past, you have your present, but there's also a future. So what's in the horizon for Lucos?
Like I mentioned, since we've been growing, just like any small business, we're still a small business. We have, you have to put in new processes in place, new people in place. And what used to, one person used to have 5 hats. As you start growing, you start taking hats off and giving those to other people. So we were a very flat organization, and that works for a while. But eventually you have to start to put different people and align people's responsibilities, accountabilities. So a lot of what we're working on right now is trying to help define new roles for new people we're bringing on, for new contracts that we have, new customers that we support. How do we best align to match up with meeting the customer's needs, and also how we work efficiently as a company? Because as we grow, we know that you try to continue to find new efficiencies as a business to be able to continue to be profitable and perform well. So that balance between adding people and working through different challenges of personnel and growth is something we're working on. So we've got we're taking some time away from the business to work on the business. That's something every entrepreneur talks about, whether you're working on the business or working in the business. It's easy to work in the business, and we've been lately especially focusing on working on the business and structure.
Well, I tell you what, Lucas's footprint is growing, but that's a great problem to have, because it's going to be more efficient and grow exponentially. So kudos to you and your team over there. So let's transition, Garth, and talk a little bit about your development professionally, either in the Air Force or the several years you've done as CEO of Lucos. So what professional development areas do you work on to improve your capabilities as a leader?
Yeah, sure. So just like any leader, I read a lot. There's a lot of good things to learn from there. But one thing that might be a little different, or at least in the defense contracting community, is that it's very collaborative. Unlike when I talk to other folks in other industries, my peers, other CEOs or other business leaders in our industry, we usually talk a lot. So for many years, from when we first started back in 2008, we started asking questions and people would answer them in our industry. So we sought out people who had gone before us, and the amount of help that we got from those sorts of folks was tremendous. So we continue to call our friends that run other businesses, and these businesses sometimes will compete with it. But because a lot of the folks are veteran-owned businesses, or at least work in this industry, there is a lot more openness and willing to look out for each other that I think you wouldn't find in other industries. So we've constantly tried to model ourselves off of businesses that we admire, both the people, the organizations, how they do business, things like that. So we continue to do that. And now that we've had a lot of success, we have a lot of those kind of companies coming to us. So we absolutely pay it forward because so many people have looked out for us and given us advice along the way. And some of those folks were now bigger than, that were bigger than us. We were the startup. Now we're more the mature company. And that collaboration is still something. So we give advice to our peers, similar companies, smaller companies, bigger companies. There's certain things I think we do better than some of the bigger companies, and there's others that we don't. And we're trying to get better. So Also, another thing I did recently is I joined the Tampa Bay CEO Council. So I wanted, again, to reach out to other leaders in industry and business to learn from them. That's just a beginning of a process for me. So I really like the in-person. I like reading books is great, and I can definitely learn a lot from that. But it's also talking to the people and interacting and going back and forth about challenges or opportunities.
And collaboration is so key to growth, not only as a company, but personally. And so good that you have that collaboration within the industry, and also taking your time to give out and collaborate with others. That's wonderful. Now, Garth, when you was growing up in the military, on your reserve side, active side, and now all these years as a CEO, you've undoubtedly learned some things that have gotten you through some hurdles and some tough times. What are some of those things that you could share with an up and coming leader that you would like to?
Yeah, a couple of things I learned in the military that I still think I use regularly today is, being a humble leader is important, but also confidence is important. So early on in my military career, I was working with a peer who loved a lot of self-deprecating humor. He was a really just kind of amiable guy and so forth. But we also, as I was a contracting officer, and so regularly we had to sit across the table from major defense companies. So the ones that you've heard about, publicly listed companies, and we would have to negotiate with those folks. And so he would always say, I'm just a, so-and-so, and I don't know a whole lot. And I pulled him aside and I said, hey, we are leaders here. We're representing the government. We're, in that case, the Air Force, in these negotiations. And if they think you're not smart, they're going to try to take advantage. And I know you are smart. And so, he was kind of a guy that just enjoyed that. And it was fun, talking around with your friends like this. But in a situation like that, he was going to be the lead of something. And he came up to me actually years later and said, Garth, that one comment you made has really mattered. Now he's a colonel in the Air Force. He's been a squadron commander multiple times. I didn't influence him that much. Can't take that much credit for it. But just little things like that, because he had this humble thing, but he didn't always necessarily demonstrate the confidence. And I knew he had the confidence, but sometimes the humbleness kind of came too much. And so then he started to kind of behave more confident, especially because he had to represent a group of people. He was the lead negotiator on some major contracts. So I think that balance of being humble and also confident is a balance that all of us need to work on. I don't think I have that figured out all the time, but that's something I thought was interesting and something I think about. Another one that, as I was starting the business, that I read in one of a book that I don't hear about a lot, but I've recommended to a lot of friends, is called The Partnership Charter. It's not necessarily on the top of the lists for business books, but it was a really good book that talked about how majority of hypergrowth companies are actually partnerships. You hear about Bill Gates, but you don't hear about some of his partners. Bill Gates is the representative for Microsoft. You hear about Steve Jobs. You don't hear about Steve Wozniak as much if you read about that. But a lot of these companies started out as partnerships, and some of the other companies that didn't maybe have one leader, a founder, oftentimes has a spouse or a significant other kind of working really hard in the background. So while a lot of people think I'm going to go on this journey by myself, this kind of lone entrepreneur kind of thing as a leader, that's great. But I think there's some real benefits to, especially in entrepreneurship, to seeking out partners in your business. And I really think that is a challenge. A lot of people who are A-type, they feel like, oh, well, am I going to have to compromise here? But for us, a partnership has been excellent. And I look around at a lot of the other companies that I see have been successful. The partnership companies have generally been more successful than the ones that weren't. They benefit from founders' different experiences. In my case, my co-founder was very different than I was. A contracting officer in the Air Force. he was an Army Special Forces officer. So we both brought a different background, different connections, different ideas about things. So I highly recommend the partnership charter to anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship. It brought up things like, what are going to happen, 5-10 years down the road when you're making big business decisions. What happens when a founder wants to retire? What happens when a founder wants to sell? What happens when someone wants to hire their kids for the as employees of the company? And it was written by a guy who had arbitrated a lot of business disputes. So he saw a lot of these things. So I thought there was a lot of value in identifying things that you want to do with a company while you're getting along. Because later on, if you're not getting along, it's a lot harder to kind of put those things in place. So from a leadership, I wanted to set a culture and an understanding with a partner as leaders that we could get along, we could set for the company and sort of values and ethics and where we wanted to take the company before we even started. So those were really good things for me when we got going, and I recommend it to all my fellow entrepreneurs.
Oh, absolutely. Not only entrepreneurs, emerging leaders, and everyone, I think, first and foremost, being humble and being confident, right? And know you're doing something bigger than yourself. Whatever you're wearing, either uniform or suit, you're representing that company or that organization or that military branch. So that's great advice. And then you talk about this partnership. I see it more, it's like the marriage, right? We all have these great things coming in, but long term, you have to be prepared for that. What if you bring your kids to the table and to the equation? What if you lose a partner or so? So this great advice, Garth. I thank you for sharing those. And with all those great advice come different challenges always, but reading books is good, but operationalizing it is another thing. So how do you, Garth, handle challenges you currently facing or have faced in the past?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, as we're growing, we're trying to structure the business more. So after talking to a whole bunch of other businesses in a variety of industries, a process that a lot of businesses in our situation are following is a book called Traction. So going back to a book, it's a great process for small businesses, and we're starting that. And it's really trying to focus us on the long term, also setting intermediate goals. So we are, like I said, we're adding and people change and things like that. We're trying to build a structure for the company that is enduring. So I recommend anyone who has a small to medium-sized business to check out the book Traction, become more and more popular. And even if you're not, maybe even if you're not running a business, Traction is a good way to potentially influence the business that you're in. It's got good ways to help organize the company, identify responsibilities, and just be more efficient. So we are dealing with a lot of those growth issues, but they're positives. They're really positives, and we're excited about those, but we want to do it smartly. So this is another method that I think a lot of successful businesses and most of the businesses I've talked to have come out on the other side of going through this process, and they're a lot more efficient. People like working there more because they have more understanding of the visions, the values, the goals of the company. And those are something that easy to kind of pass by. And, we all have visions. What we found is the founders have great vision, but we're not always communicating that to the people. So the process of Traction and other things is helping us to work on making sure that the other people in the company know those. We think they do, but you can never spend enough time on that. And again, working on the business to try to set ourselves on the right course.
Absolutely. And traction and efficiency is definitely some ingredients that you need to go from A to B. And so, but in that area, when we're actually going down a road, there's going to be so many opportunities for change, and change comes at us through either challenges or an opportunity. So what strategies have you built around change?
We are, we're constantly working with the right people, looking for the right people to help us, and trying to hire the right people based on a set of qualities. In the military contracting world, defense contracting, there's a lot of technical expertise that's needed, a lot of things, but we've been focusing more on trying to find the right people with the right personal qualities. because what we've seen is we don't know all of what's going to happen. And so as change is happening, trying to find the right people that are flexible enough, that have the right attitudes, that can look at a challenge, look at a change, and be ready for that. That's something that, I think as a company, we're trying to do to be able to be better, to be able to handle change. We don't know all the things that are coming. Like I said, we're trying to align ourselves, set visions, set goals for the company, and communicate those. But from one year to the next, there's always, no one knew what was going to happen in 2020. Even before challenges like that, the companies had, new contracts or personnel challenges, things like that. And so flexibility and finding the people with the right kinds of personal qualities, I think is going to help us. It has helped us. Those people who have been the most able and ready to change has helped me and helped the organization a lot.
Well, definitely finding the right people. Talk about finding the right people. This is an opportunity for our listeners that want to know how to find you or get in touch with this wonderful organization that's been around 13 years plus. So how do they get a hold of you, Garth, or Lucos?
One of the reasons we picked Lucos as a name is we had Lukos.com. So, when you start a company and you have a name, there's not many websites that aren't really taken. So we actually found one that worked out. We like the name. Lukos means wolf in ancient Greek. So we had a motto, we had a mascot, if you will. It's part of our logo and things like that. So Lukos.com is very easy to find. Folks can reach out to me. LinkedIn is a great way. Garth Arevalo, I'm on LinkedIn, active user, and happy to do that. I do a lot of, whether it be, you want to call it mentoring or just friendship or things like that. I really do my best to take time for almost anyone that comes, especially veterans as they're transitioning, or veteran entrepreneurs, things like that. I do spend a lot of time working with veterans and things like that. So I think that's where we met in some of those opportunities, and I look forward to more of those kinds of interactions, whether it be veteran or anything else. So LinkedIn is a great way to reach out to me. And of course, check out our website as a company, Lukos.com. We're always hiring. We're always looking for folks. We have folks all over the country. So, and even if Lucos doesn't hire the person, we also try to point them in the right direction. Our network is strong, and so we always try to help folks as best as we can. We can't always do that, but we are always working on that. And the best we can, we try to make referrals to friends if we don't have opportunities for them.
Well, that's a definite wonderful approach at going after a work or anything like that. So, and Garth, we're witnesses, right, of you spending time and talking to veteran entrepreneurs. We're so grateful for that time that you do invest in this community, and we'll have all that information about your company in the show notes in the video, so everybody can get a hold of you guys. Hey, folks, if you want to get a hold of us at the Leadership Void, the Leadership Void at gmail.com is where you will send us and any email, any requests, anything that you would like for us to cover in terms of leadership. And if you want us to have a guest on, hey, make that suggestion as well, and we'll curate that. But Garth, thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed this time.
Thanks for the time, guys. You guys are doing great work, and happy to be a little bit of a part of it.
Well, and also it's December, so we're closing out the month with some great, and the year with some great entrepreneurs as yourself, Garth. And we have a couple other things we want to share. We do Radio Check, which is the 1st and the 15th at 1900, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Is a way to just check in on our battles and check in on first responders and folks that just need a little more than just, eradicate that social isolation. 1st and the 15th, LinkedIn Live, 7 p.m., which is, of course, 1900 for those in the military, Eastern Standard Time. Subscription drive. We have Standing O. We have this wonderful book going on. It's our subscription of 200. So hit our like us, follow us, and you enter into a drawing to that wonderful book, Standing O by Scott McGregor. It's Salute Edition, Lessons in Gratitude. Next week, we go Northeast. We'll go put on our jackets and speak with another dynamic veteran. And lastly, we do this honestly because we have the opportunity to have a great sponsor from the home team of Round Point Mortgage Service Corporation. So thank you, Round Point. Thank you, the home team, for sponsoring the Leadership Void. But again, today is all about Garth and Lucos. He's doing wonderful things, and the Wolf Pack and the Wolf scenario in his company. So we thank you, Garth, and happy December. And I hope you have a great year and years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.